Coming up on this edition of Cogeco News, we profile Phase 2 for the reopening of the province. North Bay Police Service to equip body cams on officers, and OCAA delayed. Welcome inside the Your TV studio for this Tuesday edition of Cogeco News. Truly local, my name is Clark Heupel. First tonight, we continue on with the big story across the province. Phase 2 being implemented come this Friday. New details announced on this Tuesday as child care centers and home care providers in Ontario will be able to open as early as this Friday. As well, emergency child care will be phased out as of June 26th. Families served by this will have to first preference to return to previous arrangements or find new regular child care. Summer day camps will also be allowed to open this summer. However, overnight camps will not be allowed in this summer of 2020. This after the big announcement on Monday profiling Phase 2. We get more from Nipissing MPP Vic Fideli.
The three big areas are personal services, such as getting my hair cut and like everybody else. The second is bars and restaurants that will open for outdoor use and can expand into their parking lots and expand their outdoor services. And the malls will open again. So those are really, in a nutshell, I mean, there's 30 pages of precise language, but really, in essence, that's what will happen on Friday.
When will social distancing measures be relaxed, if not eliminated? Right now, if you go see a friend, you have to stay 2 meters apart.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the advice from the Chief Medical Officer of Health. On Friday, two other things will happen. We'll go from 5 to 10 people for a social gathering, and we'll also go from 5 to 10 people for a wedding and a funeral. But we'll also allow the places of worship to reopen, and they can open up at 30% of their capacity. So this is something that has been asked for by all communities right across Ontario, that we really sat down and carefully designed this with the Chief Medical Officer of Health.
Breaking news on this Tuesday morning, over $2 million of provincial funding for the North Bay Regional Health Centre. Where do you want to see this money be utilized?
Well, I spoke with Paul Heinrich of the North Bay Regional Health Centre yesterday. This is money that this is not COVID-related money. This is some of their general money. It's an increase over last year. It's about $2.25 million. I think it's 135 or 137,000 into Mattawa. You know, they make their general guidelines of what they need improved, and we fight for their dollars. And I know it was an increase over last year's.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Black Lives Matter protest across the province. One here in North Bay saw thousands of people gathered. It seemed like people took the COVID situation seriously. A lot of people wearing masks. Hard to social distance with so many people. However, the cause critical to fight against social injustice. Yeah,
you know, in my role as the Minister of Economic Development and Job Creation, we look forward to putting everybody back to work. This is regardless of the social injustices that are indeed being exposed now, especially through this COVID-19. So my role in this is to make sure that we have jobs for people when COVID ends. And so we're working very hard towards that night and day. But certainly this pandemic has exposed the underbelly of our society, for sure.
Meanwhile, Municipal Council here in North Bay, they're watching closely as the province has the lead in the rollout of Phase 2. North Bay Mayor Al McDonald joined us over Skype to discuss the latest on COVID updates from Queen's Park. Big news on Monday. Premier Doug Ford announced that Phase 2 is a go come Friday. From your seat in the mayor's office, what needs to happen to make this a successful rollout of more openings?
So we listened into the announcement about basically the same time everybody else did. So we're trying to get all the details that we need to be able to move forward with some of the openings. So what we're focusing on right now really is the outdoor patios. So our staff are meeting. They're meeting with the police, the health unit, going through the planning act to see what we can do to assist our local restaurants that are really being devastated through this pandemic. But we want to really show our support for them. I know our citizens have been shopping locally, but as a council, we are very supportive of our local business, and we want to make sure that they're ready to go at the first opportunity. There might be some hurdles that we have to go through on regulation side. That's what we're trying to find out. But I can tell you our council and our city staff are all aligned to be able to be supporting our local businesses.
Shifting focus to the homeless shelter situation, funding from the province runs out at the end of June, and that's what's keeping the Pete Pelangio homeless shelter running successfully. What are you hearing, if anything, from the province concerning another allotment of funding to keep that location up and running?
So very good question, Clark. I did speak with Mary Davis yesterday. I haven't had a chance to speak with DSAB this week, Councillor King or Catherine Matheson. I do know that they did apply to the provincial government for additional funding. Having said that, it is working well. I mean, obviously, we do have some challenges in that neighborhood. So some of the things that are going on, but it doesn't really matter where the shelter is. We're going to have to deal with that in whatever neighborhood. What we do know is those individuals are getting full service. So they're getting not just a place to sleep, but they're being fed and they're being given counseling. Moving forward, we're watching what the the provincial government's three. And the arena is scheduled to open in August. So if we stay to that timeline, we do have to look for another location for the homeless shelter. And those are the conversations that we're having right now with Mary's team and our local DSAB and our city officials. Obviously there's a need to house these people that are homeless. And we do understand that some are choosing still to not to go to the shelter, going out into the bush or the woods to pitch tents. But we're doing everything we can. But having said that, we should know more later this month.
And speaking of funding and money, concerning tax deferrals, when stage 3 hits, is that the kind of the time where City Council is going to say, okay, it's now time to pay due taxes?
So we're watching it very closely, and as we said from day one, like 86 days ago, we want to be very supportive to our citizens and our businesses. So if anybody's struggling, please reach out. We will defer them. Refer the water and your property taxes. We do have some that are taking the deferrals. I wouldn't say it's a majority though, Clark. I think it is a smaller number. We haven't set a hard date yet as to when we would stop that deferral. I mean, we want to make sure that we get through this pandemic and we're assistive as best as possible to our citizens and businesses. So at some point it does have to end, there's no question, but it's still too early to make that call.
And that cues us up to take a look at the latest data released by the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit. Just 40 new tests announced on this Tuesday. This information available at myhealthunit.ca as of 3 p.m. this afternoon. Still 29 cases overall. The majority of those have been resolved. One person remains in hospital. 2 vehicles were involved in a collision on Fisher at 5th just before the noon hour on this Tuesday as roads are becoming busier by the day. Damage to vehicles relatively minor in this crash. Paramedics, firefighters, and police officers all at the scene to assist the incident. The vehicle, one of them, had been removed from the crash site upon arrival of our news camera. No word if any charges will be laid following this collision. And it's pretty obvious that streets are becoming busier by the day as restrictions are being lifted. So a friendly reminder to drivers to take your time, follow the rules of the road, and get where you need to go safely. The North Bay Police continuing to plan to add body cameras to their officers as soon as they can. The discussion of that plan continued today at a virtual police board meeting. Our Greg Estabrooks met with a couple of the key people involved.
The initial recommendation for body cams for North Bay police officers came from Dennis O'Connor, who is the chair of the police board. O'Connor commented with the media after the virtual meeting, although he was in person at police headquarters on Tuesday morning.
One of these things we've been talking about for the last 3 to 4 years, basically, body cameras. And we were waiting for Toronto Police Services to do a full study of it. You know, of course, it saves us money, and you've got a big organization like Toronto Police Service will investigate the best products and the best procedures. So we're just waiting for Toronto to finish. Now Toronto is finished, and the chief's been in contact with Toronto Police Services. And once they send up the information to us, then a decision will be made. And we're looking at, if the board approves it, maybe in about 3 or 4 months, go out and get a contract for the body cameras and everything else. The cameras actually are not that expensive these days. It's more in everything else, the computers, the infrastructure, and everything else. So the chief's working on that, exactly what's the best for the citizens of North Bay. But it really has come down in price. It used to be very, very expensive, but with new technology, and I guess because a lot of police services in the world are using it, the price has gone down.
The first part is I committed to the board today that we would look at what other police services have experienced in regards to body-worn video, in-car camera video also for police officers. Luckily, and fortunately enough, there's been enough police services across Ontario and Canada that have already undergone and gone down this road. I think there's services close by in Ontario that we can look at in regards to their experiences with it. More importantly, I'm looking for the Toronto Police Service and what their rollout will look like, and trying to leverage some of the technology and the information that they have that I can provide back to the board by September, with the first report in regards to what it looks like for the North Bay Police Service. And then there's many decisions being made afterwards in regards to what vendor, what technology, what are our governance and policies in regards to body-worn video, and how are we going to move forward as a service. So I think year-end is earliest optimistic approach in regards to being able to select a vendor at one point and go forward.
I think it's important for the citizens of North Bay, and it's important for the police officer, for both of them, because sometimes there's a conflict in the sense somebody will say they did this and somebody said they did that. I'll let the chief address the part about the cameras on and off. He'll be more in line with the policy he'd like to see. But basically, I think it makes the community feel safe, and it makes the police officer feel safe that whenever they have to interactions with certain people, both people are treated with decency.
Now news from the OPP. A 23-year-old North Bay man is facing a mischief charge laid by provincial police after the service says the man unleashed violent road rage on another motorist's vehicle after an incident on Highway 11 as both vehicles were northbound just south of Sunridge. Police say the complainant called police after he attempted to pass another vehicle heading north when the accused motorist yelled at the passing driver to pull over. And the passing vehicle and the driver of that vehicle did pull over, and once both drivers had been at the side of the road, the suspect driver broke the windshield and rear door window of the victim's car. Police located the suspect driver and arrested him. That man is North Bay resident James Gerard. He is charged with mischief, destroy or damage property. He is to appear in a Sunridge court on the 27th of August to answer to this road rage charge. We have reached break time here on this Tuesday edition of Cogeco News. We check in with Adam Canton as he takes a look at a 1980s classic movie. All that and more right after this. Welcome back to Cogeco News. It is time for another installment of the Entertainment Insider with the insider himself, Adam Patrick Contant. This Tuesday, Patrick takes a look at a 1980s classic film created off the back of a classic board game that's known to have started a few fights among friends over the decades. Here's Adam.
Hello everyone, I'm Patrick Contant, the Entertainment Insider. Today I'm bringing you a classic review, going back in time a little bit to the 1980s, one of my favorite decades for movies, as earlier this week my wife and I were browsing around Amazon Prime trying to find something to watch when we came across one of my favorite movies as a kid, Clue, based on the Parker Brothers board game. Now my wife had never seen this film, and in fact most of the people that I have encountered have never seen this film or knew that there was a movie based on the very popular board game. But I did, because when I was a child, this was a movie that my family had, and it was one that we would watch consistently. I like this movie a lot, and I was really excited to show Kayla the genius that were some of these incredible talents put together. There is a lot to love about this movie, especially if you're a fan of old-fashioned mysteries and if you're a fan of very physical comedy or witty comedy. There's a lot of great wordplay in this. The story is put together by John Landis, who, as we all know, knows a thing or two about comedies, but the players as well. You've got the likes of Tim Curry, Martin Mull, and of course, one of my favorites, Christopher Lloyd. This is actually a pretty incredible ensemble cast. Everyone plays their role perfectly, and everybody has great comedic timing here. There's plenty to love in terms of the laughs while mixing a little bit of the mystery. That is what I think is the most impressive thing about this film, is the balancing act that it performs. It's not too serious. It never takes itself too seriously as a movie based on a board game. But at the same time, there's still a lot of intrigue and there are some very real stakes. One of the things that maybe wasn't so great about the film is the multiple endings involved with it. This was actually a marketing idea that they came up with for the film back in the 1980s. There were actually 3 separate endings filmed for the movie, and depending upon which cinema you went to, you got a different ending. They thought this was kind of clever, considering that there are multiple endings to the game as well. But it didn't fly. In fact, all it did was cause a lot of confusion amongst the market. In today's world, maybe it would work. Who knows? The internet has kind of changed the way that we view movies and hear about them. So maybe it's the kind of marketing tactic that would work today, but didn't work back then. Thankfully, if you are checking this out today, there are all three endings are attached to the film. So you get to see every ending that they filmed. And I do think that this was a good idea, but I can see why some people may think that it dragged things out too much, which is really the only other nitpick that I can make about the film, is that there are moments that do feel like they drag a little bit. But again, that's me being really nitpicky and scraping the bottom of the barrel for things to find about this movie that I don't like, because I really, really do enjoy this movie.
Well, we have reached break time here on this Tuesday edition of Cogeco News. Our Greg Estabrooks is celebrating an important milestone in his marriage to his beautiful wife, Tammy. He has a mention of that in weather right after this.
Weather is brought to you by Canadore College. Great things happen here.
Welcome back, everybody. Greg Esterbrooks here with your weather for this Tuesday. And this was supposed to be the week for Armed Forces Day down at the waterfront. Of course, COVID-19 put the kibosh on that. But life is full of other stories and, well, other mysteries, like one, why Tammy Esterbrooks would be willing to put up with me for 20 years effective today is a mystery. All my love, my queen, 20 years anniversary today. Another mystery, well, Clark Heipel beats me in tennis. The scores are littered on social media. When I'm winning against him in tennis, nothing. The weather, well, not that mysterious, but still a little bit colder than it should be for this time of the year as we go further into this week. Let's go to the weather forecast specifically, brought to you by Environment Canada and Canadore College. Overnight tonight is going to be clear initially, but then clouding over overnight Tuesday into Wednesday with a low of 17 and outside risk of a thunderstorm. Wednesday, muggy, 26 degrees. Rain will be ending, clouds in the afternoon, a small chance of that, and a small chance of a thunderstorm in the morning. Winds will be gusty from the south to 50. High of 26, but the humidex is all the way up to 34. Showers overnight on Wednesday and a low of 15 degrees. Moving on now to Thursday's forecast. We can tell you that it's going to be a lot colder. Just 15 for the high with a pretty good chance of a shower. Clouds overnight Thursday and a low of 8. Friday, June 12th, just 12 for the high. Pretty good chance of a shower. Overnight on Friday, clouds and a low of just 5 above. What is going on here? And then Saturday, warming up a tad, 17, some sun, some cloud. Cloudy overnight Saturday and a low of 7. Now the normals for this time of June are 22 for the high and 10 for the low. And on Monday, the high was 20 on the nose and the low was 5. That is it for the weather. Break time has arrived here in Cogeco News. Mr. Clark Heipel will serve up sports right after this.
Sports is brought to you by Tag Construction for all your construction needs.
Welcome back to Cogeco News. It's time now for your sportscast. The OCAA, the Ontario Colleges Athletic Association, and its members announced today the decision to suspend varsity sports planned for the fall semester of this year. This includes all 27 member schools. Of course, Canadore College, part of that decision. This is in response to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Virtually all sports affected by this, and includes baseball, softball, rugby, soccer, golf, and cross-country running. And this is following the OUA announcement. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to take this moment to wish Greg Estabrooks and Tammy Estabrooks a very happy 20th wedding anniversary. A very important day for them both and their loving children. A heartfelt congratulations to Greg and Tammy for 20 years and many, many, many more to come. Well, that does it for this edition of Cogeco News. Tune in live at 5. Greg will be back on the desk. We'll see you then.